remember last week we talked about, penalties at the end of the game, and it's funny. The more egregious they are, it seems like the less they call them. There was
Do you
the
remember
Saints NFC Championship game. I
that no
can't remember
call on
what
that pass
year now.
interference?
Probably in the neighborhood of 2015, 16. Um, they had a fourth down, and I mean, this pass interference call was so egregious and blatant. Like, remember, that's what they put in the rule, that
For
the
that rule.
coaches could challenge a pass interference call is over this
Oh,
play. The guy
how did they
flat
miss
out
that?
pancaked the receiver, and the ball sailed over both their heads. I mean,
I remember that play.
yeah, I mean, it's like, okay, look, yeah, for the touchy stuff, keep your flags in your pockets, but in when it's that egregious, when it's that blatant, and it obviously does affect the outcome of the game, dude, come on, throw the
Do you remember
flag.
the Miami Ohio State game?
No, I'm not
They
sure
were
which one.
they were already opening up the chips, and Ohio State was celebrating, and I mean, fans already running on the field. I mean, it's like 10 seconds after the play, and then he comes in there calling a pass interference.
Wow.
Yeah, you have to look that one. I mean, you have to look that one up, man, because that was the one. I mean, they had already opening bags. And
That reminds me of one of the greatest moments that you'll ever see in football. And it's not one particular one, it's many of them, but when you see a defensive back celebrating the result of a play, only to turn around and see that flag on the ground and collapse.
especially when it's one of those ones that it's iffy.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like the reaction though is priceless because they're hulking up, and the turn around uh, and see it. And if it's still sailing through the air, that's when it's really great. There was one time, I believe this was an NFL game. This was years ago. It was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. I wish I could remember what team so we could Google it, but there was a late hit on the quarterback, and the ref threw the flag, and the defensive lineman knew what he had done, and he's sitting there just kind of laying on top of the quarterback. And about that time, that the beanbag part of that flag just bounced right off his head. And that is great. I'm like, they couldn't have done that if on purpose if they had tried, man. That would have been that was
Speaking of late
classic.
hits, this
Just
was before
bounced
your
right off his
time.
helmet.
Do you remember that player for the Packers? What he did to Jim McMahon? Did you ever see that play?
Wait, say again.
Did you ever? This was a little bit before your time, but did you ever see the play of what that Packers player did to Jim McMahon back in like 87, 88?
Oh, okay. Because you threw me off because I was when you said Packers and Jim McMahon. I remember when he went and he was Favre's backup and like his.
Yeah. This was
So that
this is
when
where,
I'm like, wait a minute, because Jim McMahon was one of those crazy guys that coming in to take some snaps on a blowout game would do something foolish. Which, by the way, man, that is. I feel like he was talked about a lot, like when we were growing up, but that is the one of the most underrated quarterbacks now. Nobody ever talks about him
the guy
anymore.
picked him up and just slammed him down, and his career
Mhm.
was never the same after that.
Yeah.
I want to one. I know we got top over there, but you remember that Super Bowl shuffle that the Bears did? They did a song. They did that. They made that song the week before they lost to Miami on Monday Night Football, the only game they lost in the regular season. And Buddy Ryan and Mike Ditka almost got to fighting in the locker room. They had to separate them.
I believe they recreated that for a commercial. I think it was a Super Bowl commercial. It was like a Boost Mobile commercial or something. They recreated the whole thing.
I
And
remember
they
that.
had all the players that were still living there. It was pretty. I mean, Man was there. Singletary. They didn't have. They didn't have. Perry. Obviously, he had passed, but and Peyton, of course, had passed. But that Super Bowl was something else. Like, it's amazing to believe that William the Refrigerator Perry scored a touchdown and Walter Payton didn't.
Man, I don't know how Ditka can live with himself not giving Peyton a touchdown. I mean, how he didn't let Sweetness score a touchdown.
Yeah. Which I've heard different. I know we're getting way off topic, but I know that I've heard different versions of that. That Walter didn't mind it because he's a team player, but then I've also heard that he was not happy about it at all and had to be like talked to in the locker room after.
I mean, I believe. I mean, I had to bother him.
Yeah, I mean, come on, everybody's going to want to score a touchdown in the Super Bowl.
Especially the all-time leading rusher in the NFL at the time.
And in an interview with Ditka, he said, "Man, I wasn't even think about it. We were just clicking on all cylinders. I didn't even realize he didn't have one."
And he probably didn't.
But it was a blowout game, and you're doing a little tight end out to the fridge. I mean, come on. That okay, what is the biggest? Well, I know the answer to this because at least the Bears won the game, but I mean, they got the ball on the goal line. Send Fridge in there. Instead of giving Peyton the ball up the middle, much like the Seattle Seahawks.
Oh my God. That has to be the worst play call. I mean, what? I mean, why did he throw it? Why?
I honestly think he thought the Patriots were going to key up Lynch and thought it'd be an easy little throw. But my thought is, why don't you just fake the handoff to Lynch and have Wilson run it around? I mean, if you don't want to run the ball up the middle, I mean, back then, Wilson was one of the squirmiest little guys. When he went to scrambling, he got as much yards as he wanted.